welcome to Season 6 of How I Made It Through. As I've said before, it is often through pain and suffering that we learn our most profound lessons. It is through courageously exploring the inner landscape of our lives and seeking healing that we transform. Joining me this season is my newest co-host, Bernadette Thompson. Bernadette and I invite you to join us now twice a week as we continue to explore the extraordinary stories of those who've had near-death and spiritually transformative experiences, or are simply wise and old souls sent here to help the collective awaken and heal. Our show reminds us that death of the body does not mean death of the soul, and that indeed we do transition into the wonder of the afterlife and come back again and again and again. Our hope is that each episode will serve as inspiration for your own spiritual discovery. We thank you for joining us in this powerful learning and ask that you subscribe, comment, like, and share. Together, we can spread the growing awareness that we are all infinite souls sent to Earth School at this very unique and miraculous time in human evolution. Welcome once again to How I Made It Through. I want to start by saying, please like, subscribe, share. We're really excited about this channel. And when I say we, you can see that I have a new co-host. I am so happy to welcome as my partner in crime, Bernadette Thompson. Thank you for being here, Bernadette.
Thank you, Kristin. I'm so excited. I'm just so excited.
I know, and I love that energy. And I love that energy. And I think this is season 6. Man, we've been doing this for almost 3 years. Our last season, I was lucky enough to have the co-host Ray Catania. So sending out so much love and light and appreciation and gratitude for Ray and all that he contributed as we welcome you onto the show. And so today's structure and what this is all about is, yes, the launch of season 6. Yes, the launch of my fantastic co-host, but also really resetting. It's resetting for a whole new season with very connected themes and purpose, but just again, a reset, an update, a new beginning, which I'm really excited about. So today, the way this is going to work is that I'm going to go ahead in my way of introducing Bernadette, who has been a guest on the show. So you can go ahead and find her episode. But as a way of just getting to know her, I'm going to be asking her a bunch of questions. And in return, after I've asked her some questions, she's going to go ahead and ask me some questions because I am always the one doing all the question asking. But in this experience, I've also learned a lot that I'd love to share. And as we are all continually getting updated and renewed, I think it will go far in our partnership and in creating this new season. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get started with you, okay?
Mhm.
So first of all, we just met a number of months ago. Was it like 6 months ago at this point?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more, but yeah, we're new buddies.
We're new buddies, but it's interesting, when you can know someone for a while and you
Mhm.
don't feel a connection, and then you can know someone for a very short while, and it's like, I feel so comfortable with you, like I've known you for a very long time, and perhaps we have known each other before, right? So
That can be an episode.
exactly, exactly. So what I want to start with is just getting to know you. I will admit when people say, "Well, tell me about yourself," I kind of hate that question. But for the purposes of people who don't know you, a little bit about who you are, what you do.
So I am now, I'll start with that, who I am now.
Mhm.
I'm a gifted intuitive, ancestral healer, and a spiritual and grief coach. And I came to that through some huge experiences in my life. My professional career has been centered around a lot of grief and trauma and helping people through significant transitions in their life. But it was my own transition through a very big story where I had a spiritual awakening that has brought me to where I am today.
Mhm.
And without spending too much time, because we want to, there's a lot to do in this show. I just want to share that it was during my husband's illness and passing from alcoholism that I had a spiritual awakening. And
Mm,
I've always had a deep interest in ancestry and have done so many ancestral stories, not only my own, doing trees for other people, and just that deep understanding of how connected we are to our ancestors and that whole journey. And during my husband's illness, when I was really struggling with a lot of, there was a lot of chaos. Anybody that has addiction in their family knows that it can be very chaotic. And so my ancestors came to me to be with me and to share with me that they heard my prayers and that
mm,
they were with me. And one came through a visitation, which is like a dream that is very, very real.
mm,
And I was had been saying, using the rosary and imagining my ancestors all around me as a way of settling myself. Beads cross over a lot of different spiritual modalities, and they're very tactile, and so they were wonderful to use. But she came to me in this dream and said, "We hear your prayers." So she was holding onto my hands. It was like a Zoom where I'm just looking at her.
who is
And
she? Sorry to
oh,
interrupt.
I'm sorry, she is my great aunt.
Okay.
She was one of my aunts, so somebody who had passed.
Mhm.
And thank you, Kristin, for slowing me down. Just kidding.
Okay. It's
Um,
a great story. Continue.
yeah, and so she came to me, and it was, and telling me that she heard, that we hear your prayers. And then I woke up. So when I
Mm.
woke up from this dream, I knew immediately that I was surrounded and loved, and
Mm.
that I wasn't alone. And I think that was the
Yeah.
biggest thing. And then, what happened after that is I actually had, this was probably maybe a month later, was also using the rosary, and um, I had an ancestor, and I believe it is my great great grandmother on my mother's side, who channeled through me as I was saying the rosary. And I started saying it in an Irish brogue. I have an
Mm.
Earl Irish, and it was one of those spiritual awakening, spiritually transformative experiences that was shocking. I mean, I didn't understand it, but I knew something. I felt her presence. I felt somebody with me. And I have to say that she came to me every time I said the rosary for months. This wasn't just a one time experience. And so that is what began, that's brought me to this journey that I'm on now. And that is that I was connected with spirit and continued to open up even after David passed away, and just felt them around me, had this strong urge to seek more and learn more. And I came to have a connection with a spirit guide who is now with me. And the journey, and they're my constant companion. So
Mm.
they're with me every moment of every day. And they're asking me now to share this, to share the healing that happened during um, my spiritual awakening, and to help others not only understand the ancestral journey, but to know how deeply loved and cared for we are,
Yeah.
and that there is so much help for us. And so that's what I'm hoping. That's what this being here is all about.
Yeah. Gosh, thank you for sharing that. I've heard it before, but to hear it again, it's always so moving. Tell us what your hope is for this show and our partnership, given what you just shared.
So it is, there's so much. I know there's so many people who, like me, was in a difficult time in their life and struggling. And it was so amazing to have this opening happen. And one of the things that I realized is I'm really not special, that this is there for all of us.
Mhm.
And that it is the most important thing is that we begin to become open to ways to communicate and ways to know that spirit is around us. We are, I mean, and that is the message that they want me not only to bring, but to help teach. And so that there's this deeper understanding of what, um, how we can heal and how we can open up and move higher in our spiritual consciousness, which I think we're all trying to do.
Yeah. Some of us, I think anyone who's tuned to this show, that's what they're trying to do.
Mhm.
In conversation we've had previously, you've talked about yourself being a spirit being.
Mhm.
Say more.
So, the spiritual being is understanding and recognizing that we are living it in this 3D world, this earthly life that we're having right now. But we all, our center of all of us is our spirit, our we are all spiritual beings. It often feels like being an old soul, or when we meet somebody that seems to have this wisdom and understanding of things, and we think, "Oh, they're an old soul," but it is really that understanding our connection with the other side, with our guides, with the wisdom of ancestors and loved ones who have passed, who are guiding us through this lifetime, and knowing that we came to this earth with knowledge, not knowledge that we recognize. And it is only as we begin to open up that we begin to remember, okay, I know what this is about. And
Yeah.
that's what spirit is trying to open uh, in all of us.
Yes. God, that's so good. And so, with spirit always being with you, what are their messages today, November 7th, 2024?
Their messages are, their messages is for others to continue to seek. And it's like a podcast like this, where we're going to bring um, different ways for people to understand how they can connect and what that journey can be like. Uh, and so spirit is telling, like, keep that seeking, keep that wondering in your, whoever is listening, like, this is what they want you to do, to learn more and understand that we are all here trying to rise. And we talk about it. These, you and I have had many conversations about how the consciousness of the world is rising, and how we are part of that. And that's the understanding spirit wants you to have right now. And to allow your heart to lead you. So when you are listening to a podcast, or you're listening to somebody speak, or you're reading something, let your inner soul guide you. You will know if that is something that feels right, and
Mhm.
follow that.
Yeah.
And because there's a lot of noise out there for a lot of spiritual things, and is not all of it is good for us. So just allow yourself to follow that your inner,
I love
um,
that.
yeah, your inner guidance, and you will feel it. I've been and listened to other people talk, and I always feel it when I'm on the right track, and that's what they're asking you to do.
So do
It's
I.
Yeah.
So do I. Yeah, I remember I was connected with someone and it just didn't feel right to me. It wasn't that this person wasn't a good person, so to speak. It just didn't feel right. And I was having a conversation and she was is a deeply personal friend and wise. And she said essentially the same thing. If it doesn't feel right, it's not for you. It's
Mhm,
not for you,
mhm,
right? Just trusting that that is our intuition.
mhm.
And that intuition is so powerful.
And what you and I hope to do on this is to bring all different kinds of
Brilliant.
information to people so that following our own heart doesn't mean that our journey looks like somebody else's.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
and that's okay.
Exactly. So what I'm wanting to transition in is to talking about the show and what the intention is. Before we went there, I wanted everyone knows me, or at least my voice, my questions, a little bit about my personality,
Mhm,
a little bit about my background. But when I think about this show and our partnership in it,
mhm,
if I may take the floor, I have a
mhm.
few thoughts on that.
Yes.
Um, so
Well,
I
may I
have,
ask you a question first?
of course, yes.
I would love to know this, just the name, how I made it through. What a beautiful vision that you had starting this, a few years ago. I would love to hear what brought you into this world. How were you spoken to that you created this?
Yeah. Yeah. How was I spoken to? Oh, that's such an important question. It's such a big question and such a multifaceted answer because it's so many different elements and they're becoming more crystallized the older that I get. And so when I think about I'm going to answer this in a roundabout way, which is kind of how I was going to start a little bit about our show. So I'm going to help me stay in fidelity to answering that question. What I'm really wanting the show to be is a sanctuary of sorts, a place where people, even if they are not verbally part of the conversation, they feel like a stirring in their soul or a curiosity in their mind or that sense of, there's something here where it's full of goodness and hope and connection and community. And so growing up, I am naturally incredibly introverted. I love people, but I love nothing more often than being alone. And I, like so many, because the more I read, the more I meet people, the more I listen to podcasts, the more I recognize for most of us, we feel like outsiders, whether it's because of the way we look, the culture we come from, our neurodiversity, our sexual preference. There's something about the quality of being human where the sole lesson is to break that trance of feeling like an other. And sometimes that trance of feeling like an other is imposed by the culture or the society, right now by the politics. And sometimes it's about our own family that we grew up in, our own astrological sign, sort of the blueprint. And with that said, we want to be bringing in astrologers. Is that the right word? It sounds really funny coming out of my mouth. We want to study astrology and to really understand because when I think about myself, so my sun sign is Taurus. I am extremely earth bound and I'm extremely grounded. I know that I've heard this throughout my whole life. You feel gentle, safe, kind. I feel most at home in nature. And yet my rising sign is Aquarius. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. It's all about the mind and ideas and being the first to usher in ideas and push the boundaries. Um, and so when I think about my childhood and being so private and so quiet and growing up in a very loud family and a very violent family, getting back to your question, how I made it through. At a very young age, I dealt with depression and anxiety. I felt suicidal. I felt overwhelmed. I felt scared. I hated school. And I learned that I have some qualities of a highly sensitive person because I'm deeply empathic. And I remember speaking with a psychic once, and she said, "You came to teach your family compassion." And she said they didn't quite learn, and that's okay. And that's okay. And it took a while to understand the gifts that I bring um, are deep listening
Mhm.
and a sense of when I'm sitting with someone, just feeling them so much, which led to a career as a therapist. So that's where I started. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology and was interested, I think, for my own complex trauma of healing myself, but recognized I had such insights and could create connections. The emotional tapestry of people's lives really spoke to me.
Mhm.
But also from a young age, as much as the world felt overwhelming, I also felt very connected to something beyond myself that I had no words for. I just had no words for. Um, and then really for me, the catalyst was when my dear friend in 2018, at the age of 45, died of alcoholism. And it wasn't like I hadn't been studying. I studied transpersonal psychology in my 20s, studied different, spiritual inquiries, whether it was Buddhism or Hinduism, or learned some about Christianity because I was not raised in a religious home, that I just became obsessed really with what happens when we die. And really, the question, what happens when we die, really begs the question, why are we here?
Mhm.
And recognizing on a more visceral, just so much more of a deep acquaintance, immediacy, that we could all die at any given moment. And as macabre as that sounds, I love that thought because it's like, get to the business of living just as soon as you can. So
Mhm.
it bolstered courage to, instead of hiding, reveal yourself, reveal yourself, reveal yourself. Because when you reveal yourself, you give permission to for other people to do the same, and you also share the unique gifts that my soul chose in this lifetime. And so I had a dream where she came through.
Mhm.
It was like I was having just a recurring dream, right? I always have the same recurring dream about shame.
Mhm.
She showed up. She used to always call herself a court gesture. And she showed up as a court gesture and basically was like, "Oh my god, just knock it off." And it was so discordant with the rest of the dream in a way that was like woke me up within the dream, and I realized the lucidness of the dream that I was aware that I
Mhm.
was dreaming, right?
Mhm.
And then my father died in 2020, and, I've been able to a little bit connect with him, and then I have been in nature and I've seen orbs,
Mhm.
and then there was a dream where, or an incident, it was a dream. Well, I don't know if it was a dream. I woke up in the middle of the night because I had to go to the bathroom, and I was in a totally different state of consciousness.
Mhm.
And some, like, my higher consciousness that wasn't in my body said, "You need to go back to Kristin. Get back in her body. Remember her story, her life." And it was like, boom.
Mhm.
I moved back into my body and I recognized that Kristin is not who I am.
Mhm.
Kristin is who I'm playing right now. And then shortly thereafter, I was meditating, lying in bed at night, and I was looking up at the ceiling, and there was a light that started small and it just got really big. And it didn't get big, like it didn't take over the room or anything, but it filled me with such a remembering of this profound love. Like when we're here, we're in temporary states of amnesia, forgetting who we are, where we come from, why we're here.
Mhm.
And that light remembered we're here to love. And I just felt so held in love, like, oh, remember. And
Mhm.
everything sort of melted away, and you wanna hold on to that. It's almost
Mhm.
like you, like, have a couple sips of alcohol and a empty stomach, and you're like, "Oh, life is really fun again, I forgot." You know?
Mhm.
It was remembering. And so the reason for this show is remembering that we designed these lives so
Mhm.
that we could heal from these lives and past lives. So when I first started the show, I was kind of a chicken. I was afraid to come out of the proverbial spiritual closet. As
Mhm.
an executive coach and I work with executives, and so I called it How I Made It Through, Robert Frost. The best way out is through,
Mhm.
is to recognize we move through difficulty and often trauma. And what I've
Mhm.
had affirmed for me in interviewing so many guests is that so many of these spiritual beings come from backgrounds of trauma because they signed up for very ambitious lifetimes.
Mhm.
And it is through difficulty that we often, much like you're talking about with your dear husband who passed on, that is through difficulty that we remember putting the
Mhm.
pieces back together who we are and come back in much deeper connection to our spiritual light and to the energy of love versus fear.
Mhm.
It is often through pain and suffering that we feel connected to one another, right? So that
Mhm.
is how I made it through. But as I was interviewing people, they were all amazing human beings with extraordinary stories. But I would repeatedly ask, do you have any spiritual relationship to this? And plenty of them said no. And I recognized that I had no judgment of their story or their relationship to it, but I had a story that I knew was important, and I knew other people had a story. And again, it's sort of breaking that spell that all of this is all there is, that
Mhm.
it's deeply intertwined. These stories of challenge, difficulty, victory, defeat, connection, communion, community, they're all designed with a spiritual purpose at heart. And those are the stories I want to hear. So I kept the name and moved on. So that's
Mhm.
the longest answer to your question.
But it was a beautiful answer. It was a
Mm,
beautiful answer. Um, well, you had such a beautiful soul.
thank you.
I would love to know who who is it that you love to serve, and
Mm.
what do you want to teach them?
Yeah. Thank you for saying that I have a beautiful soul. I'm realizing I do have a beautiful soul, as do you. And I notice with coaches and healers, we want to heal the places in ourselves that we recognize in others.
Mhm.
So I'm drawn to working. I've worked with plenty of men, and I love working with men. S- Collectively, with brothers and a husband and a son and clients and friends who I adore. I see the social conditioning that has robbed them of the freedom to experience the entirety of who they are emotionally. But I'm drawn to working with women, women who are ready to claim their space, women who are willing and ready to fully love all of who they are. Now that I'm midway through my 50s, as we watch ourselves, as I should say, as I watch myself get older, just claiming my power. And I don't mean power in the way that we see demonstrated, the strong man. I mean the divine feminine.
Mhm.
I mean recognizing where we are sages and the willingness to be seen and to live more fully and unapologetically and with greater joy.
Mhm.
And it took me a very long time, and I'm still on that road to, as you say, heal. And so for me, healing is all about self love, self love, self love, self love.
Mhm.
Not in an egoic way, although I honor the ego. I used to sort of think it was the bad guy. It's not the bad guy. It has a place. Welcome it to the party. Just know when it's there, be able to identify it.
Mhm.
And so that's who I want to work with. People who are on their journey of spirituality
Mhm.
that are ready to say, let me dive in more deeply. And here's where I think our partnership is really, really powerful. I think our partnership is so powerful because you have more of that reliable connection to your spirit guides. I'm still developing mine.
Mhm.
And you teach that. And I want to learn that more. Where
Mhm.
I think I complement you is in my previous work as a therapist and my work as a coach, which is about grounding, which is about healing trauma, which is about emotional clearing, and self-compassion. And so it's like the grounding in the spirit. So I will share that yesterday I sent an email and maybe it turned into a text between the two of us. Yesterday was the day after the election, and this is my show. So it is our show. I want to be able to talk about what is going on in the world. It is not a political show per se. However, the political is personal, and Trump's ascendancy to being elected president again just floored me. It's just yesterday was hard. It was hard, hard, hard. And you had texted me, I don't know your words exactly, but you're reminding me that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And I love that. And I recognize that. And yet, part of the spiritual experience is how do we navigate the landscape of the purely human, the emotion, the data points that often can feel so painful. They're not who we are, but they are our teachers.
Mhm.
The lesson is not to remain stuck, but to learn to process them. And that's what I help people do, which means I need to fully feel my feelings. And that goes back to how I made it through. How I made it through is not saying I am my feelings,
Mhm.
but as an empath and someone who cares about the environment and those of us who have been marginalized and those of us who are marginalized. And I'm not saying I'm part of all those communities, but saying we are one. And
Mhm.
it is our job to stand in unity and in protection and in sacred alliance. And so when I see as a nation that we are falling back to old ways around toxic masculinity, around seizing power, that will hurt people. It hurts me. And then this show was about how can we shine a light because now more than ever the show matters. And that's why I said I want this to be a sanctuary and I want it to be a community and I want people not to get lost in the vitriol and the darkness, but seek to be a light. Seek to be a light, but it doesn't mean bypassing your pain. It means moving through your pain and remembering who we are and how we are so much more powerful, so much more connected to the divine, so much more united in purpose and in love.
Mhm. And, I love what you're sharing. Um, it is, it is about the discovery of who who we are, and that's where the strength comes from. So as and this was what it was for me, as went in deeper and as this spiritual awakening, that's where my strength came from. And that's when I was able to, I know this divine connection, connecting with a spirit guide who truly helps me to look at the world, understanding that um, I am still here and that they want me to still be here. They don't want me, I mean, there are times where, oh, like, can I go home?
Yes.
But they want me to still be here. Um, and that there's so much for me to do. And so it's a beautiful, understanding that this will be a place that people can come and learn and heal and understand who they are and understand one of the things that we talk about when I do ancestral healing, and this is kind of um, what you were just referring to, even though you were talking about in this lifetime, but referring back to those things that have affected us. So things that have been passed down, and knowing that our reactions to our world are often based on what either has been passed down or what we've experienced
Right.
in this lifetime. And we all, nobody leaves here, unfortunately, nobody lives a life that doesn't experience grief and trauma.
Right.
It's part of the human experience. And I love that we've talked about bringing in different um, people to open this journey up in many different ways. That we hear from different voices. And I love the astrology. I love learning it. The stars have always been a huge thing for me. But I also love, there are so many rich traditions in the world that
Yes.
people use um,
Yes.
for
Mhm.
healing. So,
Yes. Yes. And I love so thank you for sharing all of that. What I love about what you shared is that it points to me that there are so many different paths, and we want to bring in people, whether it's a near-death experience or a psychic or an astrologer, someone who reads tarot, an intuitive, a gifted healer. So many people with stories to illuminate a path that will resonate differently with everyone. But what we have in common is that each of our souls signed up to be here now to
mhm,
experience, yes, the individual, but also the collective
mhm,
right now. And what I hear over and over again is that we're the lucky ones standing in line, clamoring to come over here,
mhm,
to do our part, to heal the past lives, to heal. And this
mhm,
idea around so many people who are empaths, intuitives, healers,
mhm,
the messengers, that they needed to go through experiences of pain and trauma because
mhm,
getting on the other side, they have so much to offer and teach.
mhm.
And that's what I hope we're doing.
Yeah, I love that you just said that. And I know a lot of our readers will be on the side of that they haven't healed yet, and they're drawn to the listening to the stories of how I made it through, and that those stories are so wide, like making it through. Um, is going to look different, and the experience that somebody is coming through might not match yours at all, but listening to them and
Yes.
hearing the story will give this amazing community of it doesn't matter that my story doesn't match theirs, but I know that the growth that they've made and how they've come out on the other side does
Mhm.
match what I want to do, that I want to come out on the other side. And, when David was so sick, I remember thinking this over and over, just saying, I have to walk through it. I can't, I can't, there's no way to just climb over it or go around it, or, we often have to go through those challenges. I loved the part of your story that you were talking about growing up and all of that pain that you had. That, just even the thoughts, the suicidal thoughts and things like that. So many people experience that. And yet, um, there is a way to come through.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
yeah, and so I'm thrilled that you kept the name as How I Made It Through, because I think that will bring people to our platform
yes.
who need to hear, and it's some of the things that we're going to share.
Yes. And so what we've done is we've made a commitment to one another because this show, it's not that it's not a success, it's done this because I have not nurtured it enough. And I feel like with this partnership, she and I, you and I, are
Mhm.
going to be bold enough to nurture the heck out of it, to love the heck out of
Mhm.
it so that more people can come to find a sense of community, a sense of
Mhm.
inspiration, hope, connection, solace, and that it
Mhm.
really serves the world and serves the world at this very unique juncture.
Mhm.
So this feels like a good segue because time goes by really
It
quickly.
does.
I know, I know. I want to thank you so much. I'm so thrilled and grateful to
Mhm.
have your friendship and your companionship along this ride that we're on together. And my hope is that people that it matters. Yeah, I hope that it
Mhm.
matters.
Mhm.
Yeah. Any final words before we bid adieu?
I would say, um, it's going to sound funny, share and like, or like and share. Like,
Comment.
I want to reach, we want to reach as many people as we can. And I think that is, so if you've listened, when you come again and you listen again and you hear something, just there's so many people like us that you have been through challenging times in our lives,
Mhm.
and we're just seeking that community and that understanding of how to make it through, or how I made it through.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. We'll see you next time.
How I Made It Through is produced and distributed by EIQ Media, LLC. Elevate your emotional IQ with podcasts and content focused on overcoming adversity, leadership, mental health, entrepreneurship, spiritually transformative experiences, and more.